security. But the overall indices have to be looked into. Economic and physical access to food, food utilization, stability, and food sustainability. The truth is that we need urgent help. The next slide is the one that makes me feel bad. I used to think that we are better off with certain countries, only to be told that we are at the same level. Countries like Sudan, Southern Sudan, Yemen, Afghanistan, Mali, Burkina Faso, all of them are ranked the same with Nigeria when it comes to food security situation. And with this type of ranking, we are still having problem of having access to farms and farming and obtaining our food to feed ourselves. So they are forcing to import. Every time you will hear, open the borders for food to come in, open the borders for food to come in, when we have not even utilized what we have to help us. It's the same story with the next slide. Look at affordability, look at availability, look at quality, look at safety, sustainability, and adaptation. It's the same story. Nigeria is not doing well. Then what are these indigenous seeds? And this is what that lady, I don't know her name, but she was swelling upon whatever, that she will hold on to it, plant what she wants to plant, eat what she wants to eat, harvest what she wants, share it the way she wants, and so on. Those are what we refer to as indigenous seeds. They are things you wake up from and discover that you inherited it from your forefathers. Is somebody following me? So they are native. And they are varieties that either originated or have existed locally in a specific locality and a region for numerous generations. Now, for them to survive numerous generations, from generation to generation to generation to generation to generation, do you know what they have overcome? Can somebody tell me? Is anybody in this house? They overcome adversity, right? Whether you call it weather, disease, pest, whatever, natural disasters. If they didn't overcome those adversities, they wouldn't have persisted from generation to generation. Therefore, that means they have certain qualities that make them to persist. The woman granite to eat raw. Local bread granite. After she finished eating, the bread started flowing. Do I have a witness in the house? Or we are only all modern people, we don't know those old ones. So these are the indigenous seeds. They are varieties that are produced, grown, and naturally occurring in particular locations. And they are selected and managed by local communities with their native environment. They have so many good characteristics. They are adaptable and they are genetically diversified. In other words, within the indigenous seeds, there are genes that are capable of defending them across all biotic and abiotic factors. And they can resist. They have resilience. And just like Madame said, they represent our culture. Let me say this one, I may not even be sure. But if you hear of Archer, where will your mind go? Thank you. I'm beginning to like Gote. They represent our culture. Ibadan and the Southwest people are struggling young with us. But everybody knows that if a thief man appear on the scene, they say, give him pounded yam. True of us. Okay. And of course, we have the local knowledge of managing, maintaining, and making them to flourish and to give us that food we need. I have already talked about they have the nutritive value and they suit our ecological systems. And of course, they preserve our heritage and they have good adaptive capacity. These are what we refer to as indigenous seeds. What are the threats to indigenous seeds? Some of those threats are common that you have known. But where you have habitat destruction and degradation of natural habitats, where those seeds are grown, those degradation agents or habitat destruction can be man-made or otherwise. But when Professor Moore was talking about organophosphate and organochlorine, he said the organophosphates will refuse to degrade. And then the organochlorine will degrade, but the metabolites are more dangerous. So those ones became a weapon. Then we have genetic contamination. That is one Madame referred to. When you bring in a variety and you plant it in an environment, and the environment is not biosecured, then insects, what do you call them? Bees, they come to the flowers. They are looking for nectar, but they have hairy bodies. As they are flying and moving, they carry pollens and distribute. Wind. You'll be surprised the distant wind can carry pollens. And so on and so forth. So, those are natural threats to indigenous varieties. And God help you that those pollens they are carrying should not have certain genes that will have negative effects on certain crops. Then we have climate change. Several climatic factors can affect our crops and alter certain things in them, especially when it comes to seed viability and adaptation. Maybe when the climate have not changed, the seed can stay in an open place. For our forefathers, they put it under one fire like that. And they can be viable for many months. Okay, welcome back from the break. We're talking about climate change affecting seed viability, and altering the environment that is suitable for those indigenous seeds to thrive. And if that is being altered, we may also have problem of eroding our genetic base of our indigenous crops. Then we have urbanization. I will tell you a story for those that are Bible students. There was this king that wake up and look at a farmer's farm and said, this place will be good for my garden. Do you know the meaning of that? So he has gone to finish the person's farm and turn it into a beautiful garden for him to sit and relax. Assuming that farmland is the only suitable, adaptable place for those indigenous species, you have finished with them. Completely. Most of the indigenous crops are under threat by man-made threats like war. One small explosive can scatter the whole environment. And you don't even know the after effect of the deposit of the chemicals from that explosive on the soils and on the crops. Market dominance. If I can summarize many of the things we were saying today, I will say it is market dominance. What you have today, you are satisfied with it. But because I want to dominate the market, I will come with something and tell you this is better. And I will take over the market. There is a story my wife told me the other day. They were advertising something on the TV. And the children keep on saying, Mommy, you must buy for us. Mommy, you must buy for us. Mommy, you must buy for us. Because they keep on seeing the picture on the TV. So she went and bought it for them. Prepared it. When they tested, they said, so this is how this thing is in the mouth. And they abandoned it. Nobody disturbed Mommy again for that. Then policy and legal issues. Somebody said we need to have policymakers seated, maybe they are here, and legislators seated, so that they can talk of the rights and protection of the indigenous seeds rights and intellectual property. Somebody talk about PVP. What the person didn't know was that while he was angry that PVP may be disturbing him, me as a breeder, I was saying that PVP will protect my plant breeders' rights. We'll come to that. Don't worry. What do you say? Yes, we'll come to that. But it's a very simple analogy. The only product a plant breeder is to breed a variety and sell. And I get my loyalties. Are you hearing me? So I have a breeder's right over the varieties I produce. So if you need it, pay a token. But another person tells you, no, this is naturally given by God, so let it be free. Those are just the differences. Sure. That's all. So, but we need to have look at the legal issues and policies that will protect the indigenous seeds. No plant breeder has right over an indigenous seed. That is the truth. It's an inheritance from forefathers. Yes. You don't have right over it. So let's look at the next slide. I think it's still talking about threats. Distribution of modern varieties, like we're talking about GMOs. Migration of farmers. Heavy drought, disease, and insect pests. Disasters, we mentioned them. Change of use of agricultural land. I talk about it, somebody changing somebody's farmland to his garden. And then commercialization, where we talk about, some will say globalization, some will say the market dominance and whatever terms they use. But somebody wants to make profit somewhere. That's all. How do we enhance food security? And what are the strategies we'll be utilizing indigenous seeds to enhance and preserve them? Now, indigenous seeds represent a diverse genetic pool. Within these diverse genetic pools, we have resilience to pests, diseases, and changing climates. That is why they survive over the years. And they have these genetic components. If you allow them extinct, we have lost those genes. And once you lose those genes, you will look for somebody that will start doing what they call biology, how do you call it? Engineering. Somebody that will come and do some engineering to bring in some of the genes. And that is what is a non-conventional breeding approach that brings about what we call GMOs. Are people hearing me? So, but as long as we are able to preserve our indigenous seeds, those species, we also preserve the genetic components that have made them survive over the years. And let me tell you one thing about them. Our forefathers were not fools. Do you know what they were preserving? The best of the best of the best. So when you go to a good farmer's place, you will see him tie the biggest cobs, the cleanest cob, the neatest cob, and keep as seed in cribs. What he has kept in those barns and cribs are a genetic pool that is resistant to many of those abiotic and biotic stresses. Natural ones. And we plant breeders call that method of breeding as selection. Is somebody married here? No, I don't want here. That side. Are you married? Let me see your hand. You did selection. True or false? You did selection. So whether it's the lady that selected or the man that selected, there was selection. So the farmers were selecting the best of the best and keeping, thereby preserving those genes. If you allow those things to extinct, that approach has gone. Nutritive values, they have it. Unique nutritive values. And those indigenous foods were used to combat kwashiorkor and malnutrition. They know they want to give you. And then you get over it. They know they want to give you to improve on your health. And of course, they had cultural identities. They were able to adapt and thrive. And more importantly, they require low input. Low input. Our great-grandfathers had no fertilizers. No. In fact, there were no irrigation equipment. Where you think that they have gathered water and they are using water sprinklers or whatever and irrigating. They were not there. They only have their indigenous knowledge of grooming a crop and making it produce well. And sometimes some of them will just use ashes from the fireplace and just pour. And these are natural things that degrade easily and have no side effects to ensure that insects do not attack the seedlings. Economic empowerment. I tell you the truth, it is not everybody that can afford modern seeds. They don't have the money. But thank God for Niger State Governor. He said he's going to get these things and give the farmers so that they will carry the name food basket from my state. I wish him well. I wish him very well. In fact, he can overtake as long as there's food. It's allowed. And indigenous seeds were cultivated using sustainable practices and promoting ecological soundness and long-term resilience agriculture. Nobody was pouring Roundup, 2,4-D, this and that. So the environment was protected. The practices were sustainable because farmers were able to afford it, and they can still afford it. So there is need to preserve these things and give them backings by law or whatever, that they should be left alone. The next slide I have here is the one that talk about the cycle that the seeds go through. And I will show you where plant breeders came in. You gather the seeds, you evaluate them, you pick the best or the best, that is the selection, you preserve them. And then you carry them to a plant breeder. The plant breeder look at it. Now for plant breeders, we have two ways, conventional and non-conventional. It's the non-conventional plant breeding that my friends here are saying there are too many ethical issues relating to it, and let us look at it carefully. Let us not take the hook and the sinker and everything at once. Let us look at it carefully. And the politics surrounding it, especially. In fact, he told me that it's a Trojan horse. What you are carrying to your house, inside its belly, armies that will come out and kill you. So that is what he said it is. So the conventional way, none of them have even said anything about it. Because it's as good as natural. Where I can look at a plant A and a plant B, and I say plant A has good traits, this plant B need to be improved on these traits. I just cross them naturally, hybrid vigor, and utilize it. They don't have problem with that. And that is where we say plant breeders work, and sometimes they even use wide varieties to cross to get some of the traits that made the wide varieties to survive, to make our cultivated varieties also survive and achieve better food security with new varieties. And that is where I said, me as a plant breeder, if I'm able to do this kind of crosses over the years, select cross, and get a good variety, without any foreign chemical, whatever attached, and I bring it to you, am I not due my loyalties? Thank you very much, man. Now, there is need for us to conserve and preserve those indigenous varieties, do research and develop them to enhance their productivity, do capacity building for farmers on how to save seed, and that is what the Niger State Governor was saying. Community-based seed production systems. Traditional farming practices, help them with them, educate them, and support them to get some of those seeds and be producing. And once you give them that support, you will increase their productivity and their output. Some farmers, all they need is farm security. Allow us go to the farm our crop, and harvest it, we are okay. That's all. I heard when he said that about 40 farmers were killed for not taking permission from certain group of people and going to the farm. Their own farm, not the other person's farm. Over 40. Policy support. Madam picked this one from me. Seed solvency laws. And she's a lawyer, so she can define that one better. The only thing I will tell you is that is to allow the farmers to utilize their seed the way they want it, how they want it, and multiply it and share it the way they want it. But let it be their own. Don't snatch it from them using whatever law or anything. So if this country can bring that kind of law for indigenous seeds, fine. That's all. We're not stopping anybody from doing his marketing, but make sure the indigenous seeds are protected for the farmers. So that we have the option. We have option. Don't tell us that stop indigenous seed, only patronize what we are giving you. So, market access. Allow the indigenous seeds also have access to markets. Let the poor breed. Allow them to be part of the value chain. That's all. And then the community empowerment. That one we have already mentioned many things about it. The Niger State government, governor has told us several ways he's going to empower the people. And we say let other governors to key in and do the same. And we'll be moving forward. So, basically, we have our own ways of preserving some of those things. Some are preserved in situ, that is on the farm, national park, in reserves, and so on and so forth. Some are preserved ex situ. Seed conservation, some are even put in a fridge, some is just the pollen, some it's only the DNA, and so on and so forth. But we can preserve them and use them when we want to use them. Nigeria government did well by establishing NAGRAB. Now they have merged NAGRAB and NABDA. But one of the mandates for NAGRAB was to get a seed bank so that all the indigenous seeds in this country will be preserved in their natural form. So anytime you need it, go to NAGRAB, ask for it. They may give you only 5, you go and multiply. They may give you 1 kg, you go and multiply. But you know that what you are holding is original indigenous seed, uncontaminated by anything. I wish we can have many of such agencies that can preserve, including private organizations. And even some state government, if they can do it for the indigenous seeds that are within their own locality. So that we can keep them and we can have access to them. And we'll be multiplying. It can go through a seed certification process that is meant for the farmers. So that they too can say, I have indigenous seed and I want to sell and make money. I don't want to stretch you beyond this. I want to thank you all for your attention, for listening to all they have said. And I want to tell you that if you want to know more about Plant Breeders Association, we are on the website, pban.org.ng. We are a community of people united for one purpose: improving crop for the benefit of humanity, not for our pocket. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for that session. Thank you very much, sir. We've been discussing on the symposium, so many topics on this subject of agriculture, plants, plant breeding, and so on. And this very next session is going to further throw more light on what we can do. Okay, if we're saying that we need to, if we're saying GMO, if we're saying this is a no GMO free, this is a GMO free zone, then what can we do? You know, what are the options for the farmers? And at this point, we're going to take, please take your notes and questions, because we're going to, in a very short while, begin to open the floor to everyone. So you can ask questions, make contributions, and we look forward to that session, because we know that everyone's view on these topics are valued, and we would like to listen to everyone. We would like to interrogate the questions you have, and then also learn from you, as the case may be, from the questions you ask and from the next session. All right, so let's move right ahead. Let's welcome our next speaker, he's a farmer, Mr. Segun Durojaye Phillips, and he's going to introduce his topic, and he's going to take us through a very interesting session in just about 10-15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is... Okay, I've been requested to sit. Thank you.
You prefer he sits or? Okay, all right. Okay, would that work for you? All right, that's fine. Then let's go ahead then, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, the convener of this symposium, for the opportunity to be here. My name is Durojaye Olusegun Philip. I'm an agronomist and also a practicing farmer. When Professor Tekimbi was speaking just now, a while ago, he told us a story the wife shared with him about the children, what they saw on TV. So what just came to my mind when he concluded his, the story is, don't eat food that has TV commercials. Because they saw it on TV with the cosmetic value. They fell in love with it. They bought it, tasted it, and the taste was awful. So don't eat any food that has TV commercials. And he also mentioned what the representative of the governor of Niger State said, that they want to overtake them in food production. Well, the governor already said, since Benue is the food basket of the nation, they will leave the basket with them while they produce the food. All right, so I'll be speaking on why hunger amidst plenty. The introduction of GMO was said to end global hunger, and I call it a propaganda. So let me just say, we've been listening for over a few hours to different speakers. And I know in your heart of hearts, you will be wondering, so if you are saying GMO is not good, GMO is not good, so what then should we eat? Am I correct? Is anybody thinking in that direction? That if GMO is not good, what then should we eat? Well, I already told you one, not to eat. Don't eat any food that has TV commercials. So, with all that has been said, I just want to urge the Nigerian government to, for now, because there is a debate on whether GMO is good or GMO is not good. With all that has been said, there are still some school of thought that believes that GMO is good, while the other side says GMO has negative impact on human health and on the environment. So my suggestion or my advice to the government, if they get to hear this, which I know they will, is there should be a moratorium on the sale of genetically modified seeds in Nigeria. That's number one. Number two, they should ensure that there should be a thorough, safe testing, labeling, verification exercises of all genetically modified foods. And lastly, the producers, of course, with the scientific findings that GMO pose threats to human health and environment, I will suggest that the government should hold producers of this seed responsible for any hazard on the environment and human health. So let's begin. When we talk about GMO, most times the debate jumps over the question of is going to end, how will it end the global hunger challenge? Because some self-interested corporations deliberately reinforce the myth that the Earth's problem is scarcity, by which only their products can save us. Well, it is a well-known fact that lies, distortion, and deception are commonplace tools to market these genetically modified foods. And I will get to that shortly, because I will give you a brief background and also an experiment that was carried out, because we didn't just come here to tell you fables. We have come with proofs, scientific proofs. Now, in Nigeria, there are some quarters. It's quite unfortunate that the governor has left, but something happened in Nigeria which I would have loved him to back me on it. You know, they say we are facing food crisis in Nigeria. And I said it is a wrong diagnosis of the problem. The bane of farmers over the years is overproduction and sales. That is why we have more foods getting deteriorated. What we are experiencing in Nigeria now is the purchasing power of people has reduced. There's a decline in the purchasing power of people. Now they cannot even afford to buy what has already been grown. So it is not an issue of scarcity. However, food scarcity is imminent, and we'll get to that shortly. Now we've heard names of corporations, global corporations like Monsanto, well now Bayer, and other corporations seeking to make the world dependent on their engineered seeds. And they even had the goal to tell us that we need their technology to feed the hungry. The same agrochemical corporations control, we've heard it several times, control 85% of all genetically engineered seeds. And they have the power to saturate the market with these genetically modified varieties. So if they have the power, are we just going to sit here and be talking? What are we going to do? What actions should we take? So since the biotech company have disregarded scientific evidence of health dangers of GMOs, and they have denied consumers access to critical information, that is why this symposium is being organized for everyone and anyone who is concerned about what they and their family are eating. So let me give you a brief background on how GMO came to be. On May 23rd, 2003, the former president of USA, President Bush, proposed an initiative to end hunger in Africa using genetically modified foods. He was convinced that the genetically modified foods holds the key to greater yields and a better world. That is part of the lies and deception they use in marketing genetically modified crops, seeds, that it promises robust yield, that promises robust yield pest resistant, disease, pathogen tolerant, all those things. Now, this was made clear at a biotech industry conference in January 1999, where a representative from Arthur Andersen Consulting Group, and all these things can be verified. A representative from Arthur Andersen Consulting Group explained how his company had helped Monsanto create that plan. First, they called on the executive of Monsanto and asked them, what does your ideal future look like? And they said, they are looking at a world that 100% of all commercial seeds will be genetically modified and patented. Andersen Consulting then developed the strategy and tactics to achieve this. They presented to them the steps and procedures they need to obtain a place of dominance in the industry in which natural seeds would be virtually extinct. Integral to the plan was Monsanto's influence in government. Now, I just told you that the former president of USA initiated it. Integral to the plan of Monsanto is the influence in government that they had, or they still have, whose role is to promote the technology worldwide and to help get the foods into the marketplace quickly before resistance could get in the way. Some speakers told you that there are laws that were passed, there are bills that were passed into law, and most of us are not even aware because they came through the back door. So it is their strategy to quickly push it into the market before resistance will come their way. Also, a consultant of biotech later said, the hope of the industry is that over time, the market is to be flooded, that there is nothing you can do about it. You just sort of surrender. So the anticipated pace of conquest was reviewed at a conference when a speaker from another biotech company showed graphs projecting the year-by-year decrease of natural seeds, estimating that in 5 to 15 years, about 95% of all seeds will be genetically modified, and this is a good business for these companies. Their attitude was illustrated in one of the excerpts of Monsanto's advertisement, and I will read it to you. The advertisement, just an excerpt from the advertisement says, so you see, there really isn't much difference between foods made by Mother Nature and those made by man. So they said, you can see no difference, no significant difference between foods made by Mother Nature and those made by man. So now, if you say there is no reason, this technology of genetical modification claims precision. GMO, genetically modified organism, claims precision, but it only mimics what happens in nature. It only copies what happens in nature. So if this thing can occur naturally, why then do you want to modify it? Now, to implement their strategy, the biotech companies needed to control the seed. So they went on a buying spree, taking possession of about 23% of the world's seed companies. Monsanto did achieve the dominant position, capturing 91% of the market. They bought most of the seed companies, natural seed companies in the world. But the good news is this: the industry has not met their projections of converting totally the natural seed supply. Therefore, groups like CEPSA, OMEF, who do not share the industry's conviction that these foods are safe or better, have not just sort of surrender. That is why they came up with this symposium. Now, I said yesterday, for those that were here, that reality presents itself in two halves: that which is seen and that which is hidden. Now, let us go into a brief experiment. This is the experiment that was carried out with potato. They took a potato and they wanted to genetically modify it. So this group of scientists trying to alter the DNA of a potato so that it will do something no potato had ever done before, a super potato. So it was to produce its own pesticide, and the pesticide was called lectin. It was to produce its own pesticide, a lectin, normally found in the snowdrop plant that protects this plant from aphids and other insects. Now, this lectin is a self-producing, is a natural insecticide that is being produced by snowdrop plants. So what they did, the industry's goal was to mass produce this combination potato insecticide, relieving farmers of the burden of having to spray the farm themselves. And this is part of what they say GMO can do. If you have a GMO seed, it will give you higher yield. It is a pathogen resistant. It is disease resistant. This is what they actually did. So as part of the research, the team of the scientists were to test the potato's effects on the health of rats, and this is where I will get your attention. So the DNA of the potato was altered with a gene from a soy bacterium similar to Bacillus anthrax. The added gene caused the potatoes to create their own pesticide called Bacillus thuringiensis toxin, which Professor Amwa mentioned before, the BT. The BT potato, you hear BT potato, BT soy, BT cotton, BT maize. That is the Bacillus thuringiensis. So they manipulated the gene of this potato such that if any insect had the misfortune to eat one of these genetically modified wonders, the BT, which was manufactured by every cell of the plant, will quickly kill the insect. The same pesticide I'm talking about have been placed into the DNA of corn, wheat, tomatoes, and cottonseed. And unfortunately, the United States Food and Drug Administration had already made it clear that in their view, genetically modified crops are safe and they have similar nutritional value as their natural counterparts. But contrary to the submissions of the USA FDA, it has been discovered that one, the nutritional content of the genetically modified potatoes were considerably different from their non-genetically modified parent lines, even though they were grown in identical conditions. One GM potato line, for example, contained 20% less protein than its original parent line. So this potato they took, they planted the original one, and they also planted the genetically altered one. The genetically modified one had 20% less protein compared to the original. And secondly, it was discovered that the nutritional content of the genetically modified proteins, the genetically modified potatoes they planted, the offspring, when they harvested and replanted it, the ones they replanted differ from the parents one. Now, there are some other disturbing discoveries that were found. Now, the rats which were fed with these genetically modified potatoes suffered damaged immune systems. It was discovered that their white blood cells responded much more sluggishly than those fed with the non-genetically modified potatoes. So it's left them very vulnerable to infections and diseases. Now, when they compare rats that were fed the non-GM and those that were fed the GM, they saw that the ones that were fed with GM developed, they have less developed brains, they have less developed livers, and they have less developed testicles. And some other rats showed enlargement of their pancreas and liver. Now, all these things are in the potatoes, and they tested it on rats. And rats manifested these effects: reduced testicle, reduced brain development, reduced liver. And this is what humans eat. That is why you see infertility common amongst men now. Now, the rats developed these serious health effects after only 10 days. And some of these changes persisted after 110 days, a time period corresponding to about 10 years of human life. So if a man continues to feed on these GM organisms, it will be causing damages gradually. And it can take at least a minimum of 10 years before it will start manifesting. By then, nobody will think it is the food he or she is consuming. So the GM, the genetically modified foods already approved and being eaten by hundreds of millions of people every day, is creating similar health problems in people, especially in children. Now you have children with autism, etc. Like I said earlier on, that we are not faced with scarcity of food as it has been wrongly diagnosed. However, scarcity is imminent if genetically modified seeds are encouraged, because they cannot be regrown. If you plant a genetically modified seed, you cannot replant it. You always go to get a new seed. So they cannot be regrown, they don't give higher yield than the nature seed, and it does not help solve the climate change. So now, if GM seeds promise long-lasting foods, like I said yesterday about a bread I bought and I left on the table, after 2 weeks I came back and it was still fresh, no mold, nothing. A loaf of bread, after 2 weeks, didn't get spoiled. So if the bacteria could run away from it, if they couldn't consume it, why should I? So the longer the shelf life of this food, the shorter the human life. And we are not just saying don't do GMO. If you say don't grow GMO, what alternative are we giving you? My organization, in collaboration with CEPSA, we are developing a project now. It is ongoing. It is called organic seed multiplication. We have just few of the seed. So we are not planting the seed to be sold. We are planting the seed to multiply it so that we can have enough and distribute. We are not just coming to you to tell you don't do GMO without giving you an alternative. So that project is on, and in due time or in due course, you will hear from CEPSA how you can get this seed. Thank you so much.
What a fantastic way to end that, by giving a very direct call to action, on what we are doing about this. So we are not just talking about it, but we are looking at specific actions that we are taking in that regard. And moving right along, we move into the next segment, and I'd like to call our able MC to lead us and moderate very effectively the next segment, which is, he should introduce it, the question and answer segment. So he's going to moderate it. He's going to, I know you have questions already, and he's going to lead us through that segment. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation, please. Thank you. Do we have, I know, not that do we, I know we have questions. Please, let's take our numbers now. Questions and commentaries. Okay, you are 1. Okay, 2. Please, can you kindly come and get mic Okay, there's mic there. Yes, 1, 2, yeah, 3, 4, 5.
For those who are going to ask questions, we want them to come forward.
Yeah.
They should come forward. We don't want them to stand and they should stand. They should stand and stand and back us so the cameras can go. The cameras can go backwards.
Okay,
yes.
Please come forward.
Please, you need to come forward for your questions.
Where are they standing, please? Okay, so they can.
You what?
They can stay there. They have cameras for them.
Where?
We'll pick them.
Where? No. Okay, here in the middle. Yes. Better. So that's where you ask the questions from. No. We don't want. It's better to come here, please. Come forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, one, please. Can you kindly come and ask a question?
Good afternoon. I was listening, and anyway, my name is Timothy Estefanos Esquire. I'm a lawyer, and I have a reason for introducing that. I was here yesterday, and I'm here today, and I heard. Sorry, I didn't get the Mr. Oluwaseyi talking about that he doesn't take grapes. But sir, I want to tell you that you will love to take grapes. I grow grapes. I grow strawberries. I grow apple. I'm from Jos. I grow them. So I'm looking forward. I'm also glad to know that he's running a program called seed preservation. And I think we'll work on that so that some of those seeds can be preserved. Anyways, I'll raise my questions with the comments. Oh, sorry. I'll list my questions with the comments so that I'll save time. My first question is that we've talked about the fact that the soils are being contaminated, especially by these GMOs who have chemicals. Now I'm asking, is there a safe way that those soils can be changed or can be cleansed so that we can now farm our indigenous crops without these chemicals affecting our seeds? And then I have the other question is talking about the laws that are coming into place or that have been put in place. In that place, I just want to make a comment. I feel that we should take these things to the very corners of the government and make sure they see it. All of us are seated here. It's a call to action. And I feel that wherever your connection is, whatever it is, we should connect to those who are in power to come to this. And then the final question I have, is for the first speaker. You talked about the universal laws, that's the United Nations laws that talk about the sovereignty of seed. I just want to know if there is also a provision for that in the country Nigeria. Thank you.
Let's take the second person, please. Yes, that is easy.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Yes. The question, when the questions are repeated, we have answered them before. We will dismiss them. The question of contaminated soils. Yes, to answer directly. I just supervised a graduate student who has just earned his PhD. It was even a master's degree. That we used certain, we call it bioremediation. We use certain plants to remedy the soil, to clean the soil up. And one of the plants we used was what they call in certain Nigerian languages or parlances, alefu. Is it green? I don't know what's the name. It's hibiscus. We know that we deal with alefu, right? It's a very good bioremediation plant that you plant it on these contaminated soils. It picks, and it comes with a very dangerous revelation. In doing that experiment, we also realized that when we eat vegetables from the open market that are planted on soils that we don't know, like this particular vegetable has a very great tendency to pick up all those chemicals from the soil. So we are literally eating those chemicals when we would say, oh, we're eating vegetables. Nutritionally, they encourage us to eat vegetables, but they become an open gateway to our menu and to our bodies. So we use that plant to remedy the soil of most of those chemicals. And then afterwards, tests will be done to certify the cleanliness of these soils of these toxins, and then they can be planted upon. So that's a cheap way. You can do that. You can also harvest the efo or the green or the hibiscus abdirafa. You can harvest it and turn it to biomass, but not to eat it, because you'll be eating those chemicals. Thank you.
Can I add to that? Also, that is using crops. There are also some particular kind of full life, that is insect life, that can be encouraged in those soils, that we have insects that will absorb some of those heavy metals or chemicals. They can break them down further, that you probably might need to introduce to those kind of soils, depending on what you want to treat or what you want to get rid of in your soil. It will tell you what kind of fauna or flora life that you can use to get your balance. And like he said, the test, soil test, will reveal where you are going to. When they say foods are organic, organic food is actually talking about the state of the soil. It is the state of the soil that make your food organic or not. Not because you planted it using one fertilizer or the other, because influence can come to your own farm from neighboring farms that are using those chemicals. So you must be within best practice to be able to keep or ward off those kind of influences, that while you're farming naturally, you use maybe natural fertilizers, poultry droppings, or cow dungs to farm, there is still this pollution of your soil because of the activities of neighboring farmers that are using those chemical herbicides or pesticides that finds its way to your place. So it's a major analysis that you need to carry out before you start addressing the problem. And I eat grapes from Jos. Yes, if it's from Jos, if it's from farms in Ibadan where I know that they farm apples and grapes, I will eat them. But if it is imported, sorry.
I'm happy we have like this high table. It's very well constituted. Whatever questions you have, you have like profs, doctors, they've answered the one on soil. So answer the one that was shown to me on the laws, domestication of the laws. I'm also very happy that NMA is here, because they are the problems of what we are going through now. I'm very happy to, I'm also a lawyer. I'm happy I'm a lawyer. I've been on this matter for the past, I started on this GMO campaign since 2005. So by next year, that will be 20 years. You can imagine how young I was. I'm ready to contain any enemy staff. We can even go, there was a time we went to Brekete for 3 hours. We're having a debate to just talk about, and Nigerians called him, and everybody that called him blamed them. NAMA has acted more like not as a regulator. they have National Biosafety, NABDA, which is National Biotechnology, whatever. It has so much influence on NAMA. They're supposed to be regulators. A regulator, you're supposed to look and say, oh, this should not come in. NAMA has never rejected any GMO.